Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Trust Funds Commissioners. Today is December 18th at 5 o'clock p.m. We are on Zoom today. PAC has a staff meeting today, and they didn't have anybody available. However, the Zoom recording will be posted to the YouTube video. And I believe it will be posted as well, cross-posted to Facebook. I do not believe that we have Facebook Live tonight. In any case, I'd like to open up, if I may, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just as an aside, I'd like everybody to know that all votes tonight will be a roll call vote, even though we are present in this room. We're going to do a roll call vote only because this is a Zoom recording. And even though it shows that the members are here and present in the Bellotta Meeting Room at 12 Main Street, we just want to make sure that any votes that are taken tonight are effective, even though because we are recording publicly on the Zoom platform. Okay. I'd like to begin by making a statement that in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that the meeting is being recorded and broadcast live over the Lunenburg Public Access channel on Facebook Live on the Public Access Facebook page. And again, like I had mentioned, it'll probably, I'm not exactly sure if that's actually happening tonight, but I believe it will be cross-posted to Facebook. Not exactly sure, but you'll always be able to find us on YouTube. At the Lunenburg Access page on YouTube. Any uploads to the Lunenburg Access YouTube will be and occur after this meeting and after PAC has an opportunity to download our Zoom recording. Additionally, please be advised that the town of Lunenburg utilizes the Zoom platform as a host for its hybrid and remote meetings, that the Zoom platform utilizes AI technology known as AI Companion to create audio transcripts of meetings to aid in the subsequent preparation of meeting minutes, and that AI Companion is activated immediately upon launching the Zoom application. You are hereby notified that this AI technology may capture audio prior to the start of the meeting and/or following the conclusion of the meeting. The meeting will be held in person at the location provided on the notice, which I had mentioned earlier. We are here tonight. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. As an aside, in the event that we are recording on Zoom, if there is a technical issue, I don't see that we would have a problem, Richard, in suspending the meeting so that it can be reheard and reviewed in public at a later time.
No problem.
No problem with that. Okay, that doesn't need a vote. I was just asking. That's actually chairman's prerogative, and that would be my prerogative. But because I like to do things together, Richard and I have made a number of different decisions administratively for these processes. Members of the public with a particular interest in any specific item on this agenda or any other should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. The following information is also provided for members of the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely. To participate from a computer, you can use the link that is joining the public webinar by logging into zoom.com and typing in 766-316-7607. Or you could dial in with telephone 888-475-4499 and enter the webinar ID 766-316-7607 and the pound key, hashtag. For some people that don't know, that's a pound key. If you have not registered with Zoom, you will be asked for your name and email address, even on the telephone. Excuse me. In any case, the agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting And are those reasonably anticipated by the chair? Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. And as I discussed, these will be roll call votes only for the sake of convenience and for efficiency. Not all the items listed may in fact be discussed that is on this agenda, and other items not listed may be brought up for a discussion to the extent that is permitted by the open meeting law. I would like to call this meeting to order at this time. We have no announcements or communications from any trust representatives, or do we have any public comment from the commission? We have no public here today. We have no public on Zoom, just so that everybody is aware. The only participants here today happen to be myself and Richard. Our scheduled meetings are every second and fourth Thursday of every month from 5 o'clock to 6:30. Our time is a limited amount of time. We feel that people sitting through 4 hours of meeting when we have plenty of time to get everything done in an hour and a half. Holding one meeting a month, we've chose to hold two. Hopefully these meetings will taper off once we finalize some of the policy, bylaw, and other adjustments and processes to the meeting that we have. That's okay.
Here, think that you're live right now?
No, not at all.
Just wanted to know for the purposes of your minutes that you either are recording yourself or somehow, okay.
Yeah, no, we have, we're actually on the Zoom platform. So we're all cleared with that, and this is being recorded for Joe to post online. So we're good. Yeah, I know. Thank you. Don't fall over. Thank you, Jen. Okay, yeah, the town manager just wanted to make sure that we understood that we're not being recorded on air tonight. Just want, like everybody to know that that was that interaction which you heard. So, and again, she always doesn't have all the information. She just wanted to make sure that we understood that there was a process that to make sure that the process is actually in effect, which it is, which is good. So this is why we work together. In any case, we can move on. Any announcements and communications from any of the members of this board? No? Did I already ask that? Okay. All right. I have no announcements or any other communications from myself. We do not have treasurer and finance director reports today. Not necessary. We're on a quarterly with them, and they usually supply us with documentation that we review publicly unless there's question. So they don't have to come in and actually give a report. I believe that before town meeting, we will ask them to come in and give a report of their direction with regard to the Trust Funds Commission. And that's just for town meeting because we have to give a presentation at town meeting of what we're doing. I'd like you to hear it from the treasurer herself of the direction that we have and that we've been provided all year. New business. We have no meeting minutes for ratification. There is none. We will have the last meeting's minutes for you. And this meeting's minutes probably sometime in January. We're pretty much up on all our minutes. They should all be recorded. Since our election, we have in 2026 year fiscal. In any case, our next subject is a bylaw to discuss to allow the select board to vote to release money from the trust funds in the absence of a quorum here, which we do have a quorum tonight. Richard is here, the vice chairman, Richard Howard, or an appointed or elected board. This is a discussion. This is an open discussion that I want to have with Richard to get some ideas. I had a meeting this week with the town manager and the treasurer, and we went over a plethora of paperwork to find information. I have a lot of documents that I'm going to have to filter through that are compiled together in about like 2 phone book sizes. And for people that don't know what a phone book really looks like, so the phone books used to be, think of it as your grandmother's Catholic Bible sitting in the middle of the living room. It's 2 of those stacked on each other of paperwork that I have to go through. We did go through a lot of it. just quickly. I want to do a better, more in detail, thorough review outside of the review that I've done at the library and with the Massachusetts Archives over the last 6 months, 7 months, to make sure that we have all the information necessary. I have some information that I'm going to share tonight before reviewing this bylaw, just to give folks an idea of what we did find, as well as, and Richard, I have not scanned these and put these up on the system, so I'll just kind of go over them with you. The town manager and myself had a treasurer. We had a very good spirited discussion about the direction of the Trust Fund Commission, the duties and responsibilities that we have as a policy-making board. I know there was a point in time that this town had made mention that they wanted to disband the Trust Funds Commission for some reason, and I believe it might be for the reason why we're going to create a bylaw. Is that there wasn't somebody here. I don't have the minutes for that. That's my speculation. But I think that there was a time where trust funds were not being distributed, and people were like, well, how do we do this? Is this board really necessary? And there was comments that were made in 1999 that this is not a policy-making board. I want to let you know that we are a policy-making board. We do make policy. We do make regulation governing trust funds. The select board in and of themselves do not have power or authority without being granted power of authority. And in order for them to get granted any power of authority, it would have to come from this policy-making board.
Prior to fiscal 26, there was only one person, correct?
Correct.
On the Trust Fund Commission. It's been inconsistent, fully staffed levels.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's been.
So, and just Richard, just speak up like outside of normal tone. That way there my microphone picks you up, because I can't tell if your my microphone picks you up. If he turns his microphone on, we're going to have competing computers. So, because we're both in Zoom. So he's in Zoom separately to me, but we're all here at the Blotter Meeting Room at Town Hall. In any case, that's true. That's the issue at hand. There is money that has been sitting here that has not been met out, and there has been, which you'll see in this discussion, money that has been met out, which I had mentioned in previous meetings, that have not been followed up with and need to be followed up with, as well as I have some information to be able to provide with the direction on application, how the application is going to work, and how that's all going to fit into us creating a bylaw, and how we can, if we don't have a quorum, people can still come. So, Richard, let's say you're elected, but you got sick, or I got sick. We don't have a quorum here. Do you know what I mean? And it's going to be a little while before one of us is well, and we're going to miss meetings, but people have immediate needs. Some of our funds are immediate need funds. We have a poor fund, and we have a veterans poor fund, and, we have another veterans fund as well, that is not just a poor fund, it's for veterans. So there's three funds that people have needs. And how we're going to create the bylaw is to make sure that there is policy in place for the disbursement instructions, which the last time there was any disbursements instructions done, and I'll go over that, was on May 25th, 2017 meeting. The Board of Trust Fund Commissioners at the time approved a disbursement instruction for a particular donation. However, these instructions have never been written down. There is no guideline policy for meting out money, for determinations, and how that's going to operate. So with that, we have operational functions for the protection of a citizen's privacy, as well as a protection of the town's privacy. And in that, those are called executive sessions. And what we would have to do is, in order to be able to review information at a public meeting, we would have to open the public meeting. go into executive session, review information that is not for the public's notice or eyes, and then come out of executive session. We hold a vote in executive session. We come out of executive session. We hold that vote publicly, and then we are allowed to disperse that money, or if there are any comments or anything like that that folks would like to make that are not private, can be made at the time of the approval or disapproval of an application. With that, just to give you an idea of how that would function, we wanted to try to protect individual privacy because sometimes people feel shame because they're poor. Look, I know what it's like to have absolutely no money or no roof over my head. So I can tell you, there's no shame in that. But there are people who have shame in that. Unfortunately, because this is a public, this is a public action. The individual's name and the individual that is receiving the money needs to be public. So if you're a landlord or if it's a utility company, or that must be public. There's not a way around that because the money being distributed is being distributed through a public application process. So don't be afraid. Humility is a great thing. I get, we wanted to do something different, but we were instructed that that's not going to be a feasible option. Which brings me to information that I have, which I have on the disbursement. And the reason why we had to ask for that is because we wanted to make sure that when we discuss any of the documentation that we do have, the people who the money was dispersed, to whom it was dispersed, how it was operated. We have an issue with regard to the last disbursement that was done in 2017, and we have to address that matter. That was a loan and a payback with a redetermination that never occurred, which means that this board will need to take up a redetermination. We will have to notify the person who received the money. They will have to come in. We will have to have a process in place for that. Before we do that, we'll have to have a process put in place to be able to put that process forward. It's an interview of a person's financial state, which would basically be something that would be handled in an executive session, not handled in a public open session. It would have to be reviewed. Documentation would have to be received by this board. We would review it in executive session to determine whether or not the individual is able to pay back the loan that has not been collected upon.
Now, moving forward, we would not pursue that same sort of engagement with people. We would not be in the business of making loans. It would just be so are we?
No.
Understand that we
would make loans because people have momentary hardships. You know what I'm saying? Somebody gets fired from their job. They fit into a classification of not having the resources because of their income status. So there are still people by the federal income that are more than 125% or 150% below the poverty level. And just so folks know that part of the application process is looking at when it comes to poor funds, okay? But I mean, like the veterans funds, some veterans need assistance for a short period of time, but then they're able to repay that back because they're veterans. They're not necessarily hardship veterans, but just veterans, that work regular jobs, that in the moment, this is what this fund was created for, veterans. So it specifies some things, but it doesn't identify all things. So we have to work through that. And those funds will not be, just so folks know, the veterans funds will not be activated until we have a probate filing for Cypre because they are less than 20 years old. And we cannot make any kind of adjustments or corrections without probate court. So that money is going to sit there until we have a probate court filing. That takes roughly about, like we have town meeting coming up. Town attorney is going to be very busy dealing with, warrant articles and other things and presentations and so on and so forth. So that Cypre filing probably will not come until after the next election cycle. And in between that election cycle It's probably a 60 or 90-day out with one hearing in court with the judge, with the trust fund commission to be able to make a determination whether or not Cypre is. But we have to make the amendments. We have to present them to the lawyer. The lawyer has to review them. If there's changes that need to be made, we have to come back to a public meeting. We have to put it here before the public. And again, I would like to see public comment period on something like that. I think that would be valuable to have a public comment on that. Not that I have to listen to the public with their comments because we have the right to just make the change, but I want to hear what other people think because we might have a thought that we didn't think of that we're in agreement to. I'm always for that's why I'm always like, hey, we need one more person. We need one more mind sitting at the table, and that's how I've always done any kind of business in a collective way where everybody's statement, point, or situation, circumstance that they can share is a valuable tool to be able to help people regardless of whether you're in an elected position, an appointed position, or it's your job, or you're a manager of a company, all these things come into play. That's why they have staff meetings and all these things come into play because we can't all think about, everything. And there might be things that we didn't think about that we should have thought about that we want to bring in. And I find that to be a valuable tool. Instead of my way or the highway. I could do it because I'm elected. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that that's the proper way government should work. I think that if money is going to go to benefit the people, then I guess the people should have a say if we make any changes. But again, you have to remember that these changes have to go before a judge, and the changes must be within the confine of the original donor's intent. So there's not a lot of wiggle room. We can't just blatantly change it. We need to follow the through line before making decisions. Have any comment? Okay, good. So that's the issue. That's the issue that we have in a nutshell. So in that, before we move on to talking about bylaws, because we have a bylaw review committee now, which means that we will write one. We will talk with the bylaw. I already sent Cesar Nizzolo who's the chairperson, I believe, of the bylaw review committee. He's also the chairman of the select board. I sent him an email in the last week. Listen, ready? I don't expect to hear an email from anybody till January 3rd. It's just so if you answer me earlier than that, that's good. Most people are like trying to fly out to their family or, they're trying to close up other stuff. It's the end of the year. We're okay with that. I don't have a problem waiting. But I did send him an email asking him what kind of process, do you want us to take with regard to doing this? Technically, actually, legally, we don't really even have to ask anybody. We can create the bylaws, put it on the warrant for town meeting, and that's it. And again, I'm going to go back to the same thing. We collaborate with others here. Okay. We are very much interested in collaborating, but mostly we want to collaborate with the public. We're sitting in the Bellotta meeting room in an empty room. I'm sorry, but government only works when the people work. And if the people aren't going to show up to talk, to air their concerns, you can even come and air your concerns if you don't like me or Richard. It's fine. It's public. We want to hear it. And we have no problem with it. We're not afraid. Okay. We want to hear you. So if you're not talking, we can't listen. Facebook is not the place to talk. Social media is not the place to talk. Okay. Talking comes from public discourse. And I'm a firm believer in that. You all know I have no problem speaking in public, and I have no problem bringing something forth that needs to be brought forth. Maybe my filter could be a little better. Maybe my approach could be a little better. But I don't see it getting any better anytime soon. It's just the way it is. Works that way. Personalities get hardwired. I try, trust me, I try. I try. But my goal is to make sure that when Richard and I are no longer elected to these seats, that we have tools in place for those that come after us and a workbook to follow. Something to say, this is what we need to do so that the next volunteer that comes here isn't trying to figure it all out. It's already figured out. It's got a legal process. It has protection in place. And, it allows us, like I said, is we're allowed to solicit for, people to open up trusts. We can do that, and, we can ask for that. I mean, we can ask bring your money forward, bring it here. You know what I mean? You have a heart for a particular cause, that's within the community, bring it here. Any money put in trust here, okay, is a tax write-off. If you want to contribute to an existing fund that we have here, it's a tax write-off. If that's your only reasoning because you need to donate to a nonprofit organization or anything like that, think about donating to our sidewalk fund. Okay, I got some information on that tonight. Think about donating to our gazebo fund. I got some information on that tonight. That benefits the whole community, And those donations will be read publicly, that you had given into an existing fund, and it's completely legal. If you give to a donation to other public boards, I can tell you this right now, they're not a tax deductible donation. If you give a donation of money to the select board through their process that they developed this year, that is not a tax write-off. Okay. I mean, if you donate, air tanks for the fire department, like I said before, right? Oh, that's fine, but that's not a donation of value that you can write off, unfortunately. The write-offs are, and you know what, Richard, do your homework on that one with your background, but I've done the homework on it, and my understanding is, as far as giving to different town boards, I know the fact because I spoke with the state on that those are not tax write-offs. I spoke with the IRS on that. I spoke with the Department of Revenue and says, if I give money to the town, can I write it off on my taxes? They says, no, that's giving money to a municipality. And then I says, what if I give money into a trust that already exists? They said, yes, that would be a write-off, even if the town was were the trustees of the trust. They said,
versus a donation.
wow, yes.
That's the distinction.
And there's the distinction. And so we're responsible for gifts and donations. So in that, I want people to know, do you want to memorialize your name in town? Open a trust for something that, you're passionate for today that will benefit in perpetuity. You want us to handle it and only spend down the interest on that money, then we'll only spend down the interest. If you say only spend down the interest in only 5% of the trust money, you can set it up that way. The trustees would be this board. We would be the trustees over that money. And whatever you wrote, because I'm going to tell you, I found stuff, okay, that says stuff like that. Like in one place, actually, the town manager said that we might find information in multiple places. I go, I know I've been finding information in multiple places, and it's quite confusing trying to put it all together. But we managed to find some other stuff that wasn't coinciding with the way things were being done because nobody did the work. So when we were going through the papers, we were like, okay, so that reaffirms that makes that clear. Look. Because we thought, well, maybe we could change this, maybe we could change that. And then we found some paperwork that says, nope, it's got to be like this. It's perpetuity. People put, like Richard said at our last meeting, right? One of our former meetings, you said people want trusts because they want their name and lights for years in town to be recognized. It's a great way to give back to your community even after you're gone. We have a fund from the early 1900s, 1903. It's still here. And Mr. Day, who lived in Groton, gave that money. I'm sorry, he lived in Shirley, and he gave money to Shirley, to Groton, to Pepperell, to Lunenburg. So, in that, I want to go through some of the papers here, and then we can discuss some of the brainstorming that I have for the bylaw.
Yep.
And get your input on that brainstorming. So we can come to a consensus agreement. Now, so far, Rich and I have been pretty good on everything, but a lot of it is basically already information that exists. Obviously, outside of, we still have to finish redoing our policy for risk management, which we may or may not get to tonight. And like I said, is that this is something that had come up within the last week. And I think the bylaw is a lot more important than working the risk management at the moment, because this is going to set up the money to be given. So we get this set up, we get the bylaw set up, we get the application approved. We discuss that, particularly when it comes to, veteran money and how it's given out, poor money and how it's given out based on poverty level, based on already established poverty principles. Just so everybody knows, there is a standard in the federal government and in the state government. Persons 200% and under, they already have a schedule. If you have this many kids, if you're, taking care of a family member, and then some income ratios based on that. Okay, these are already been established. They're used all across the country. The state has a little bit more of a assistive percentage as opposed to the federal government's percentage, which is blanketed. The state has a little bit more of an assistive percentage where they say, persons of this income within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is the poverty level, which gives more to the individual as opposed to the federal law. And the federal law says that's fine as long as you don't go below this level. Do you know what I mean? So because we're in Massachusetts, we're a Massachusetts town, we're giving money to help people. Realistically, there shouldn't be a limit of how much, do you know what I'm saying, helps. But Massachusetts has actually put together a decent enough program, that gives a little bit more, changes the schedule of income and family size and things like that, so that the benefit is a little bit more. And if Massachusetts is able to sit there and say, this is the money the federal government gives us for that help, and this is how we match that to give more, then we can probably do the more here. I think that would be sufficient, because this money is for the people of Lunenburg. And if we can make it to benefit the people of Lunenburg, then, that's value. That's valuable because it's directly results in affecting the lives of our citizens. So I just want to go over a few things. And again, like I said, sorry, Richard, I'm talking again. Richard's the strong, silent type. No, that's not true. Trust me, if I upset him, it's coming out. No, we're not doing that. Okay, so I have here, Richard, I just want you to see, just to look real quickly, okay? I'm going to go over right now money that was given in 2017 in the amount of $2,397 out of the Worthy Poor Fund.
That's it. Right from your head on the share drive.
Yeah, that one I loaded, but I loaded it actually under the wrong name when I did load it. I was load. I know it was there, and I went, oh, that says minutes. That this isn't the minutes. This is the minutes. And I was like in the middle of doing something, and then I got a phone call. I had to go to work. Like, you know how that works. You go, oh, I have downtime, and then the phone blows up. So I got sidetracked on that. That's why I said I brought it with me. But this, I only received this last Wednesday. For all of you that know, I have a 17-year-old that's very busy. Like he tries to do a million things, and I go, your father can't keep up. I have a million things. I can't add your million to my million. And he's like, oh, he came home today. He's like, Dad, he says, I applied on Indeed for this job. And I said, oh, really? Oh, that's great. When were you going to tell me? Oh, I've already been talking with the guy. I go, okay, where is he? He goes, Fitchburg. I go, and how are you going to get there? I go, I go, you can't go after a job without scheduling something with me. He's like, yeah, but Dad. And I'm like, listen, if you need money, focus on school. We'll do that in the summer. He wasn't happy totally, but he was okay. He was just like, he understood after I told him. And then he told me, oh, yeah, it's only on Sunday at 7 in the morning. And I said, oh, it's 7 in the morning in Fitchburg. Yeah. Okay. So that means that instead of me getting an extra hour of sleep and sleeping till, 7 o'clock in the morning, if I sleep even, you know what I mean? You want me to get up at 5 and fit that time frame. And I said, see, that's the discussion. He's like, oh, I wasn't
You're a
thinking.
stakeholder in that decision.
Exactly, a stakeholder, right? Exactly. And that's what I said to him. And he just laughed. He goes, I'm sorry. I go, no, don't be sorry. I'm glad that you had taken initiative, but yet you're not yet at the point where you're able to think it all through. That's why they call us parents. So anyway, I go, you have enough irons in the fire with volunteer work, honor society, this club, that club, student government. I go, slow down. I go, there's only so many hours in the day, and then you have to have studying time, you know. I go, that's more important. I'd rather have you study than do anything else. So, anyways, I got sidetracked today because the phone rang. Wanted to have all this in there for you to see. So, and I could load it. Well, that didn't work out. So that's okay. All right. So in this distribution, you'll see that the resident I'm not going to get into this right now, who the resident is and so forth. These are the disbursement instructions. The resident will receive the support. The trust funds will meet with him in 6 months to determine the ability to repay. That was never done because the board never followed through with it. The entire amount should be sent directly to the person who they were seeking assistance from, to the beneficiary. The individual asked for the money, but we don't pay the money directly to the individual. We discussed that too. It'll go to utility companies, landlords. It will not go to directly to the individual. And there's processes we have to put in place for that. People need food or need this or need that. I mean, we have a food pantry in town. Thank you to Turkey Hill Lions Club, who does a great job with that, right? They serve a lot of people, and they don't just serve Lunenburg residents. But they could actually probably be a group or an organization that we could ask to assist in acquiring provisions that are not the provisions that are at the pantry. Like some folks have medical required diets that are not paid for by their health insurance and stuff like that, and they're needy people. This is what I'm trying to tell you, is that we're trying to put a whole list together of options, oh yeah, your insurance company, maybe your insurance company will reimburse you, but you don't have the money right now. Well, when the insurance company reimburses you, you come and reimburse us. And that's where I was saying with the loan thing. You see my point? It works,
Yeah.
you know? And again, that would be something, see, so for folks understanding, the people sitting here are trustees, which means if we say we need this paperwork, you come provide that paperwork. If we say that the money for the reimbursement, if it's a reimbursement, needs to be directly written out to the trust, it can be written out to the trust, not to you. You can say, I'm getting this. You can show paperwork to your insurance company. I got a loan from here. I need this money paid to the trust. Those will be requirements. That information and paperwork will have to come before us, that the insurance company is aware of that. And then you don't have to receive anything to pay anything back. It comes back to us from the insurance company. And like I said, there's a process. And if you want to be a trustee, everybody thinks, oh, the trust fund commission doesn't really do anything. They just meet once a year. That's what I heard. And I said, excuse me? I said, so trustees that are responsible for meting out money to the general public, I says, only meet once a year. Oh, I go, well, that's wrong. That's way wrong, like way wrong. And if I'm looking to my side, it's because Richard's there. There's Richard. So everybody knows. Uh, so in any case, so this was a loan. Uh, and it says here that the money should come from the earnings in the Worthy Poor Fund. So that was the disbursement instructions that were actually written down. So there was a public meeting and there are minutes, which I haven't seen these minutes online, but I'm going to put them together. I just want to make mention that there are some names here of people that I would like you to come forward because I can tell you that I'm going to personally contact you to find out what information you have or don't have, as well as other individuals who are still in town whose names I have on other minutes. I'm going to personally contact you. It would be really nice if you could personally contact me instead of me having to go hunt you down if you have stuff that still belongs to the Trust Fund Commission in your personal records. In attendance at the meeting on May 25th, 2017 was Karen Brochi, who was the town accountant, Mylene Malari, who is the town treasurer, still is, Michael Gale was the senior commissioner of trust funds here, and Robert Herrick, junior commissioner of trust funds. And absent was Karen Ullo. Forgive me if I pronounce your name incorrectly. It's Ullo, commissioner of trust funds. So I'm going to go through these meeting minutes because they're real short and real quick. It says here the first part of the meeting was coordination between the Commissioner of Trust Funds team and the accountant treasurer. The town provided current copies of the fund balances managed by Bartholomew. We discussed the process of releasing funds from the accounts and agreed to the following. All fund disbursement requests will be reviewed by the Commissioner of Trust Funds team. This will include ensuring the proper fund is selected and that the request meets the guidelines associated with the fund. For example, some requests only allow income to be dispersed, never any of the original principal. Michael Gale will look for prior files that explain the disbursement restrictions. He will ask Kathy Herrick for copies of any Commissioner of Trust Funds minutes. I did that too. They have none. These will be shared with the accountant treasurer. The accountant treasurer came up with the town manager this week with a stack like this. We went through all of it quick. I mean, it's in the middle of the day. Nobody's going to sit there for 3 hours. I'll sit there for 3 hours. So I'm going to make an appointment next week to come down here and crisscross applesauce, I guess, in the corner of Mylene's office and go through paperwork. You can see how big those offices are downstairs. I don't know how they get any work done. It's crowded. So anyways, Michael will work to get the listed restrictions for the new Lind Saxon Fund. What? Did you see that fund?
I don't remember seeing that in.
Okay, why do we have a Lind Saxon Fund from 2017 that we don't have today? And I don't see any disbursements out of any, I don't see this. And these are some questions that I'm going to have to look back on with the accounting department and find out what happened with the Lind Saxon Fund and where's the paperwork on it because we don't have it. So that's very concerning to me that there's a fund that we're finding that is as recent as less than 10 years ago, and we don't have paperwork on it. I don't even know who Lind Saxon is. I just found this out Wednesday. I haven't done the homework. Oh, I'll find it. And I'll come here and I will let you know. Because to me, that's a grave concern.
Unless it allowed 20% to be spent per year of the.
Well, that's correct, but it says,
Then it would be.
it says this person will work to get the listed restrictions for it. Well, I find no historical data with regard to any restrictions or any kind of fund that was ever here like that.
If it's gone, there probably weren't many, if at all.
Right, but I want to go back and I want to look at that fund because that fund is within 10 years. And I want to make sure that the disbursement from that fund was actually per the restriction and it wasn't abused. Because if it was abused and this is a trust, this person, Lynn Saxon, to me, wanted their fund to be a forever fund, maybe. I don't know. But I have a duty to look into this for the people of Lunenburg because this benefits the town. I can't just go, oh, well, that fund doesn't exist anymore because this person said so. Oh, real? Oh, is that how funds disappear now? Oh, so when this person says so, that's how we go, oh, we don't have that. Oh, that's why this board is only meeting once a year. Sorry, you'll have to forgive me. When I heard that, I had to laugh. I says, I have never met a trust fund, trustees of trust funds meeting once a year. Never, ever. Particularly when it's it's an expendable fund. I've never seen them meet once a year. So this is what are we understanding here, folks, right? How this has been operating? Yeah, well, I'm looking into it. I told you I'd look into it. And
Definitely, red flags are raised on that, that really,
there are a lot of red flags, but these folks here should know some information and that I named. Where are they coming forward? Why haven't they come forward since 2017? What communication did we have with the last prior commissioner? Why hasn't she come forward that was elected? And what she found or what she did? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, we don't have people like, banging on the door going, hey, I want to, I got in a position and I have information for you and I want to help. Where's that? What? Oh, after you're elected, you don't help no more? Oh, well, I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. You know something, say something. Come here, bring it here. We want to know. We really want to know. And I hate to tell you that, sometimes when you dig deep, you find stuff that, aren't going to make people happy. And when people don't come forward, I'm sorry, but to me, that's a red flag. Why aren't you coming forward? It doesn't make any sense to me. Okay. Are you not coming forward because there's something going on? Or, I mean, that would be the negative look. Are you not coming forward because you don't want anything more to do with town government and you hate town government? Do you not come forward because you moved out of town? I mean, there's a number of different reasons we could look at, but when we have names that are less than 10 years old of individuals, and some of them are still in town, and then there are names of people, and you're asking me to go and get your email address from the public record, because I can, contact you via email, look you up on the registry, on the tax record to find your home and come knock on your door so that I can have a communication with you because you're not communicating with me because I'm trying to find information. I mean, I'm going to do that. We're going to have the information so that this board operates and functions correctly. And, it'd be nice if folks would just come forward and say, hey, listen, I was talking and this, that, and the other thing. And, we're just trying to gather information to benefit the people of Lunenburg. That's why you heard me 3 years ago, I started going, I am so tired of the select board 3 years ago saying to people who come in here and stand at that podium down there and say, I love Lunenburg, and that's why I want to volunteer. And I was like, love does not make town government work. You can love Lunenburg all you want, but that's not a reason for your resume for getting appointed to a board. And that's what I saw was going on, and I said something. And I haven't heard that in a while. I mean, I've heard people say they love Lunenburg, but I've also seen what they provide. What skill they bring to the table, and if you don't have any skill to bring to the table, there are certain appointed positions that people just should not get appointed to. And then, I mean, you can't stop elected seats. That you can't stop, but these were appointments. And that was being done by a select board. And, that's a problem. If the select board is going to appoint, it should be a job resume. If you get elected, hey, the select board had no say. But if the select board had to say, they have a duty to the public to make sure that the person fitting the job is qualified. Just like a job interview.
there should be some qualifications and experience
Yep.
requirements.
There is no
for-
qualification or experience for elected seats, though.
Right.
None. Well, we got a third seat. Right? Don't have to have any qualification at all. You can come right in and, speak your piece. Do you know what I'm saying? You can't, elected's elected. That's it. Okay. You want to do a recall, get 2/3 of the registered voters to sign a petition. Then you can submit a recall. Good luck, because you don't even get 2/3 of the town to come out and vote.
You get the government you deserve.
Right. Oh, exactly. Right. That's priceless. Did you just say that? I hope everybody heard that. Okay. You get the government you deserve. Okay. You can't complain about the troubles unless you participate in the problems. Everybody says government is messy. Of course it is. Right. But it cohesively comes together with a meeting of the minds. It's very philosophical. Okay. And, the duty of an elected official is to take everybody's bitch and try to help make it right. Everybody's. I'm dead serious. I mean, people offer stuff. It's not just bitching, but, frankly, you hear lots of problems and things like that is because somebody has a passion to get it fixed. Somebody comes to this podium and says, hey, I have a passion that I want to get something fixed. As a chairman of this board, I would be making a phone call to that person to say, what's your ideas? What do you think? As an elected official, I wouldn't be sitting up at a board like you see today with some of these boards. People come in and they go, la, 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 la. And then week after week after week, or month after month after month, or year after year after year, they come in and they say the same thing again and again and again and again. You know why? Because the people sitting up there aren't calling them and saying, how can I help? What can I do? That doesn't go on. That doesn't go on. Okay. And if it does, it goes on very infrequently because I never hear anybody talking about, remember, I don't know if you remember when back in May, folks that are just new to watching our meeting, Dave Rogers came in. I gave him the whole floor for 35 minutes, answered his questions, right? Why is that? Well, we had nobody else in the room and we didn't have really a lot to go on at that time. And, here's a guy that has, experience in a number of different areas and has lived in town for a long time and has a lot of information and was worthy to be heard. Because if I didn't hear it here in his 3 minutes, I would have called him on the phone and said, hey, what do you think about this? What kind of ideas do you have? I go, see, that's how you work it. At the state level, they call it constituent services. At the local level, the chairman of the board is the constituent service person.
Right. And David asked good questions when he was here.
Absolutely.
And the responses, I think, helped to educate all people who watched that. Because they probably had the same exact questions.
Exactly.
But they watched it after the fact and didn't participate. And hopefully they got something out of it.
Exactly.
Exchange.
Exactly.
So it was great that David came. And
yeah, we loved it. So, and again, when we sit in an empty room, we just, go, and a lot of these rooms are empty, I don't go to every meeting. It's understandable, but I do watch them. And I speak up when I think these things need to be spoken, not just troubles or problems, but, overall situations, step up, speak up. It's one voice, one vote. But the funny thing is after you have your voice and you have your vote, if that candidate is not doing the work that you think is responsible enough, then you should come to a meeting and you should stand at that podium and say, I voted for you, and this is what you told me. And put them on notice. Put your politicians on notice. Let them know. Absolutely. But everybody's like, oh, then people won't run. And oh, you listen to that all the time here in this town. Oh, you can't get people to run for election. No, you can't get people to vote because this town has failed to put out the vote. 13,500 residents and 900 show up for a local election and only 3,800 to maybe 4,000 show up for a national. That's disgusting. That's because the town's not putting out the vote. There should be signs. I said it before. Ready? There should be banners that are made, okay, that say vote today, and it goes right over here on Main Street, where Main Street meets Mass Ave on the four-way stop, and then all the way down the other side of town, over near Electric Ave, where it meets Leominster, of everybody coming in from that way. Because on all those two ways are the only two ways into town that most people will always drive past and always see. And having a big banner, vote today. You know, I stood out and held a sign at the last election, and a woman pulled up and said, "Oh my gosh, are they voting today?" And I said, "Yes." She's like, "Oh, I didn't even know. I'm going in." She drove right in. See, that's called getting out the vote. Put your politicians on notice. Okay. Don't come in after they make their screw ups and then say you want to put them on notice. Yeah. Put them on notice right away. You know, they say something, hold their feet to the fire. It's the only way it works. Call them out. We don't have news media in town that comes and starts asking questions of politicians. Our local paper just writes about stuff and informs us, of information. You know, they're not putting people on notice or things like that, of their platform. How many people ran a platform? I ran a platform this year. Not for this seat, but I ran a platform. I wasn't afraid. We need more of that. All we need, in order to inspire that, we need a city council government. That'll make people run for a seat, because now you're running different wards, and you don't just have 200 people sitting in a room out of 13,000 making decisions on warrant articles. Actually, it's less than 200. 200 is only when the school has something in there and they all show up, because then after they leave, all the people that, they only came from the school. They don't care about the rest of it. I don't want to say everybody, but I watch it. I see it. I call it out. I'm not the guy that yells fire in a smoky theater. I'm the guy that yells fire because I saw one. So anyways, I digress. So the coordination, let's continue on the minutes. You folks don't understand how important this work is here. And I want you to understand that. And that's why I keep talking to you every week, for you to have a better understanding and know exactly what we're doing here. So the coordination meeting adjourned, and the Commissioner of Trust Funds team met separately with a resident to review a request. Why didn't it say go into executive session? They met separately with It was moved and voted that the conditions the resident faces are properly covered by the Worthy Poor Fund. The motion included the following component. They authorized the treasurer to disperse $2,397 from the earnings of the Worthy Poor Fund. Disbursement details would be provided to the treasurer in a separate communication. The resident must meet with the legal support provided by Town Hall and provide evidence at a follow-up meeting. Meet with the legal support. So now we're paying for residents to use the town attorney. Okay, did that get covered by the Worthy Poor Fund too? Was that part of that fund? I don't think it was. There's a problem with that. Okay. In 6 months, the resident must come before the team, the Commissioner of Trust Funds team, and provide an update regarding their situation. At that time, the Commissioner of Trust Funds will decide if the resident needs to return some or all the funds and agree on a repayment schedule. If Commissioner of Trust Funds decides the resident can now afford to reimburse the funds, and then the meeting adjourned. That was the meeting on the disbursement of the money, and then the process for disbursement. And again, we found out something new, right? So we have a legal team. Did you know we had a legal team? Did you know, as a resident in this town, you have a legal team? I've always said, right? Adam Costa, nice guy, great guy. Firm is great. Mark's great over there. They're all great people. Okay. But they're the town's attorney, not the people's attorney. I've said this 1,000 times. Okay. He is not there to protect you. He is there to, okay. Myself or Richard or an elected official, gets a complaint for an open meeting law violation. Do you know who answers that? The town attorney. Why? Because he has to protect the town from the actions that I did, or Richard did, or another member of a board did. He has to protect the town. He represents the select board and the town manager. okay, in their operations, okay, and rewrites of the charter and so on and so forth. You hear Adam speak all the time on a number of different things, okay? But he can't answer questions legally for residents. But in here, in this document, it says that he met with a legal team. Why? I didn't know I had a lawyer. Did you? It's amazing. But I think all these people that are on this list would know what that meant because that's how I'm looking at it. I might be wrong, but I don't have anybody stepping up and coming forward, do I? No, they're going to make me chase them down to find out what that means. Okay, well, let's chase it out. We've been saying for 7 months, this person, that person, does anybody have any information? Come forward. We've been saying it. Now I'm at the stage where I'm going to chase you down and hear what you have to say. And then I'm going to come publicly and say what you told me. When you could have said it all nice and privately and private communication. But if I have to go and do that, then I will let the public know exactly the communication. Why? Because I have to. Because I have to ask direct questioning. And if I'm doing something outside of this board for the benefit of this board as chairman, and I have to discuss things with individuals, I have to bring it back here and tell Richard. I can't tell Richard in an email, hey, I spoke with this guy. I have to come here publicly and say, hey, Richard, I spoke with this guy.
Mr. Chair, there is one person on that list I do know of who is deceased, so.
Well, yeah. Well, like I said, I don't know.
So-
God rest their soul.
Just to save you the effort or whatever.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, no, that's fine. I figured that.
So I can point to the one. on-
Okay, all right. No, that's fine. But like I said, this is what I'll do is I'll say, here's a list of names that I'll email you. And I'll say, do you know anybody? And you'll go, this one, 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 this one. And that's how we work it behind the scenes administratively. That's all that gets discussed. And then I go, okay, good. Okay. I'm not going to ask Richard, say, oh, do you know how to get a hold of this person? I know how to get a hold of you. You sent an email to this town. You did. Or you wrote a letter to this town. And I only have to ask the town for any communication by you. And I can get your email. And I can get your phone number. And I can get your address. If you sent any public record here to any public official with your name and address on it or anything, it's not private. Okay, it really isn't. If you own a home, it's not private. If you, you know, if you made a communication here via email, that's not private. Okay, if it's making a public statement, it's not private. Just so you know, if you paid a tax, not private. The amount is, but you name it. But, you know, I think most people are generally good when it comes to that do volunteer for towns. They just don't watch the meeting. Do you know what I mean? So they don't know what's going on. Or they, you know, like I said, maybe they got disgruntled. They're like, I'm never going to volunteer for this town again. You know, I hear people like say that stuff all the time. You know, I'm like, whoa, easy. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing is seamless. Everything has problems. This is just a letter from Mr. Gale to the treasurer with regard to disbursement instructions. And that's what I have for that. So I also have a worksheet for the trust fund. This came from Shelley McKay, who was the treasurer in 2013 to a Chuck Patterson with regard to the trust funds. This is a letter I received from the American Legion Group interested in setting up a trust fund. Do you mind taking a look at it? I would appreciate any advice you have to offer. Thank you in advance. And Ernie Sund responded, please find attached the outlined we have made for a trust fund. We look forward to any suggestions from you or the managers. And that was in September 9, 2013. You see, this is younger than 20 years. This is the Cypre filing I said. So it says here, the trust fund, there's a worksheet here that says to establish a trust fund in the town of Lunenburg with the following conditions. Inclusion of a current surviving member of Post 283 be a voting member in the decision-making process and allocation of trust funds. A list of current members to be included at the end of this letter. It doesn't exist anymore. That's why we have to change it. All funds must be used for the benefit of members of the American Legion Post or Lunenburg resident veterans. See, this is a veteran fund. Okay. Veterans must be eligible for membership in the American Legion. Okay. Which would mean that in a Cypre filing, we would look at what are the eligibility for membership in the American Legion, and then we would apply those kind of directions here. And I have a list of that because I did speak with the national office and the Massachusetts office of the American Legion, and I have all their paperwork for what it means to be a member and how to become one.
Yep.
So they must be residents of the town of Lunenburg. Other disbursements may be made for qualified programs within the town of Lunenburg that would benefit or enhance veteran services or program, such as special veteran celebratory functions. Okay. And again, so Michelle Durkee is our veterans officer here in Lunenburg. And, you know, I will be obviously with dealing with a lot of this. I will be having discussions with her. I have had past discussions with her. She's great to work with. Only annual interest funds can be dispersed. The maximum disbursement for any 1 year can be 75% of that year's interest, which means this is a fund that is to remain in perpetuity. Should the fund reach the amount in excess of $100,000, any amount in excess can be used for veterans benefits. So when it gets up over 100,000, you can start dispersing from the principal over that.
Yeah.
And again, this is a fund you can donate to. I'm just telling you, you can donate to it the way it is now. We're going to rewrite it. It's going to be taken care of, but you can donate here. This is a great time. It's a giving season. It's a wonderful time to do it. All you have to do is send a check to the town manager and say that I would like to make this donation and check out to the town in Lunenburg on behalf of the American Legion Veterans Fund. Not the American Legion Poor Fund, but you could do that one too. And you could give donations for that. And if you need copies, I'd be more than willing to give you copies of what the funds are. So that's 2013. So that's some communication that we had. Now we found these Wednesday. All right, digging. Keep digging. Gonna get there, Richard. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Every time I think I'm almost done, it's like, oh, more paperwork, more information. All right, so this was 2017 5/26, which is obviously the minutes meetings that were sent. Disbursement instructions will be in a separate email. So this was from the this was just a communication from Mr. Gale to the town of Lunenburg with regard to the disbursement minutes. I mean the minutes for that meeting. They have to send minutes. You have to have minutes approved before you can disperse funds, just so everyone is aware of that. Oh, there it is. All right. So there is that. And I know this has taken up a lot of our time tonight, and we had some other things on the agenda. This is all relevant to creating the bylaw, just so you know, we have to go through this. It's, like I said, it's cumbersome. It's a lot of paperwork. Um, all right. And I do have Ernie Son's phone number, so I will give him a call. Um, outside of his email, which is written on a Post-it note that was in the file. Um, says the American Legion is probably closing the post due to no members. And it said that it had $7,000 in the fund.
It's roughly 9 now.
Right. Yeah. So they transferred that over to a trust because they closed the post. So now we know the post was closed by the Legion, not just disbanded or nobody did anything. They just had no members joining. So they closed it. Rightfully so, right? All right. So now we have a little bit more information here. This is for the Worthy Poor Fund. This is from 1966. So the American Legion Fund was at the Worcester Savings Institute at the time, had $913.71. The principal was 500. In interest as of 12/31/65 was 413.71. The Nathaniel Day Fund was at the Savings Institute. It had $426.60, which there is a little asterisk, which is a 90-day order. U.S. Treasury bond in that fund for $1,500. I don't know where that is. That was cashed in.
Probably.
I don't know if it was cashed in.
Matured maybe, and
I hope it wasn't cashed in.
well, if it matured, then they
How long do you think that that U.S. Treasury bond was there if it's $1,500? I didn't just buy that. That's 50 years of U.S. Treasury money. Think about that interest at an average of 6% a year. Almost 10% a year, actually, because they get a lot for inflation on that.
Yeah.
When they turn it in.
Yeah.
Right, the capitalized amount on 1,500 over 50 years.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good amount of money,
Yeah.
don't you think? Where's that bond? Well, we'll have to find out. I'll have to call the Treasury and find out where the Nathaniel Day Treasury bond is that was at Worcester North Savings Account and get the account number. Because obviously it was deposited or it existed. That's a huge amount of money.
Well, back in 1965.
But no, even if it was matured today,
Yeah.
to today's maturity, that's roughly about 7.5% to 9% of compounded interest over 50 years on $1,500. Do you want to do the math?
Yeah, I don't know what's-
I can do the math. Uh, it's 60 years. We're doing this for fun. We're gonna find out. I have to find out what this is, though. That's why I. So Susan Howard had a fund here too. I told you that that Worthy Poor Fund was Susan Howard's fund. But this might be Susan Howard's fund itself because she had a separate fund that she gave money to that was not part of the sidewalk fund. So I'm gonna find out about that. She had $3,500 in U.S. Treasury bonds in that one. And I have to go back and find that money. Because you're talking 60 years of compound interest. That's huge. Dude, that's at least $85,000.
It's 1500. $18,000. 1,500 on 60 years.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said 85,000. I meant 18,000. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm still back on the.
Yeah, so that's
original one of the.
so 3,500 would be like double that. So that would be like 18 plus. So I want to find out when those bonds, if they were turned in. I want to find those treasury bonds. Gonna have to look back to 66, but if those bonds were turned in, they would have had to been turned in by the town. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it would be tracked. They would still have the record for that. The federal government would. So the American Legion Fund was established in 1941. See this here, principal interest payable on the board, order of the Board of Public Welfare. That would be us. Because in 1920, they created the public welfare law. And before that, in 1913, they gave us authority as a trust fund commission. Actually, they gave us authority before that, but it wasn't like, and then the town did a vote in like 1941, said, we want to create a trust fund commission board. And I went, wait a minute. They already voted for that in 1913. Like, why are they voting again in the Warren article? In 19, did somebody forget it existed and said, maybe we should do this? Like, it's nobody did nothing. It was just funny. So, an excerpt from the day fund said 12 to each of the towns of Lunenburg, Shirley, and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, 1,000 to be invested by the selectmen or overseers of the poor of each of said towns, the income derived therefrom to be used. See, we're the overseers of the poor with regard to the Board of Public Welfare, with regard to the trust. This says by the selectmen or overseers of the poor, which basically I discussed that at the last meeting. If one doesn't exist, the other, do you know what I'm saying? But where one exists, it goes to the one that exists, not to the other. That's the legal canon language of that. Of each said towns, the income derived therefrom to be used by them in improving the condition of the worthy poor people living out of the poorhouses in each of the towns of Shirley and Lunenburg. Note on passbook doesn't coincide with the above. Interest to be paid to town treasurer. Principal to be paid to town treasurer on order signed by a majority of Board of Selectmen. And Susan Howard, 1904, excerpt from will of Susan Howard. Second, I give and divide and bequeath to the town of Lunenburg $2,000 in income to be used for the worthy poor of the town. That's Susan Howard's fund. And I know where that fund is, and I found information about that fund, that fund is only to expend the interest. In 1931, Article 16, to see if the town will vote to accept and forever keep and be responsible for the sum of $5,000. The interest at 4%, $200 yearly spent on the public grounds and sidewalks. This is the sidewalk fund within 1 mile of the center of the town. The said sum being a legacy to the town under the will of Luther G. Howard and to be accepted as a memorial to his father and mother, John Howard and Mary Caldwell Howard. It was approved by the Finance Committee, Article 16, March 2nd, 1931. Voted to accept and forever keep and be responsible for the sum of $5,000 as a memorial to John and Mary Caldwell Howard. The interest from said sum at 4%, $200 a year to be spent on the public ground and sidewalks within 1 mile of the center of town, the sum being a legacy to town under the will of Luther Howard and to be known as the John and Mary Caldwell Howard Fund. So they call it the Sidewalk Fund, but it should be the John and Mary Caldwell Howard Fund. So see, we have to make a change. And we don't have to make a change. These funds, we can file a Form PC, Public Charity Form number 15-15 with the Secretary, with the Attorney General's Office of Public Charities, because this fund's more than 20 years old. They have what they call administrative cypre that can be done, and we can do it with the Attorney General's office. So, Article 16, we actually have in the book from the town of Lunenburg.
It's a bit odd, Mr. Chair, is that if they deposited $5,000 and the only that earnings could be spent Why is there only $22,000 there now?
Well, this is what I mean. So I have to go
So-
back and I have to find where the money is.
Yeah. 'cause
I'm hunting, you guys,
there should
folks,
be,
you don't
like,
understand, I'm
that-
hunting
at that
money.
rate, it should be like 100,000.
I know. And I'm telling you, the responsibility for all that money is going to be paid for and it's going to come back to these trust funds and I'm going to find it. I just need to find it. I need to find it. Working on it. A lot of flags. Try to tell you, I'm still looking at the property stuff. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff. You know, this money comes to the benefit of the residents of Lunenburg. Can I say that enough? This is not tax money. This is money that belongs to the people that if it was squandered, okay, then it needs to be replenished, okay? And accountability needs to be had for it. However, that accountability comes with interest. So I'm going to mention it again. The Woodward Schools for Girls versus Quincy. Okay, it was an estate. The town thought that they could squander it. Well, they misused it. $3 million. That was the amount of money for all the years with interest that the town made a mistake, that the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court ordered the town of Quincy to pay all the money back plus interest for their improper use of that money. Because that money benefited, okay, was a beneficiary of the Quincy, President Quincy, John Quincy Adams, okay? It was his family's trust fund from like 1830. And the town saw it fit to just go spend it willy-nilly, that it was okay. Well, it's not okay. Not when he gave that to benefit the girls' school in specifically for a girls' school, that land. And they decided, oh, we'll do this with it.
So that $5,000 at 4% over 94 years essentially would be almost just under $200,000.
This is what I'm talking
There's
about.
22,000 there.
Yep.
Mathematically, doesn't make any sense.
Nope, we're gonna go collect some money. All right, sounds great.
Unless we went outside the provisions of the trust and spent down principal.
Correct. And that means it has to be paid back because that was done by a town board. Our actions, see, when the trustee is irresponsible with the funds, that's why we don't take this lightly, okay? We are the trustees, okay? This is not just, oh, yeah, I'm just here to make a vote. No, I don't think people really understood the position here. Okay, you're a trustee and you're required to follow the rules of the Massachusetts Uniform Trust Code in this position. Okay, you're bound by it. And if you digress from it, not only are you personally responsible, so isn't the town. So let's talk about that for a minute. Not necessarily a crime, but it's definitely a civil issue. So here it says to see if the town will vote and accept and forever keep and be responsible for the sum of 5,000, the interest at 4%, 200 a year on the public grounds sidewalks of Luther G. Howard to be accepted as a memorial to his father and mother, John Howard, Mary Cowell, approved by Finance Committee. Voted March 1931. Okay, look what's in here too. To see if the town will vote to accept 2 oil paintings, one of Sarah Howard and one of Susan, to be placed in the town hall or the library of the town, the paintings being a legacy to the town under the will of Luther G. Where are they? Where are those paintings? Imagine that. I want to see them. I have my wife's great grandparents' oil paintings from 1873 when they got married hanging in my living room. Yeah, oil paintings of Bessie and Eldon Price hanging in my living room. Oh, and his Mason certificate. So, There's also money in here to see if the town will vote. This is 1931 to vote to accept the sum of $100 for perpetual care of Ernest K. Proctor lot in the North Cemetery. To see if the town will vote and accept the sum of $100 for perpetual care of the Arthur P. Brown lot in the North Cemetery. Well, there's a lot of information. There's some cemetery information too, that was in that paperwork too that I'm going to go through. And if I see anything, I will let Michael Clark know if I find stuff in there that might benefit the cemetery. Because there was some cemetery stuff that was mixed in there. Because I think, like I said here, there's donations that were given for perpetual care at the time. And then I just received a clear copy in Nathaniel Day's.
Oh, yeah, that's usually.
Yeah. She goes, "Oh my God, the scan you have is nasty." Jen said that to me. I go, "I know." She goes, "Yeah, take a copy of this." She saw it on my computer. She goes, "How do you read that?" I said, "You should have seen Richard and I trying to read it."
Nobody under 40 could probably read it at all, so we had trouble.
Nobody under 40.
It's cursive.
Oh, oh my God, that's right. I know. Oh, by the way, yeah. So if you are not a person who does cursive writing or knows cursive writing, you don't want to do historical research because you won't be able to read anything. It's all in cursive. So this is the information that I acquired by meeting. And I know it's taken up a lot of time, but this is all relevant to how we're going to write a bylaw, which we are going to brainstorm. Richard's going to come up with some ideas over the next couple of weeks till our next meeting. I'm going to come up with a hard copy of writing. I will write a hard copy to make a presentation so that we can get it out in a timely fashion, because I know it has to be reviewed by the public in that. And this is something that we want to be able to do so that we can, when we're not here, we don't have a quorum, that we're able to give money out to people in need. And we're going to fix all this. We're going to do more homework, do more research, and we're going to get it done. Just, like I said, I haven't gone down a rabbit hole that didn't come up with something in the rabbit hole. So it's not really a rabbit hole, is it?
Opportunity.
That's right. And if I'm looking at $200,000 and another $18,000 for a treasury bond, stuff like that, I want to know where it is. I'm going to find it. That goes back to the people of Lunenburg.
Well, there better be a good explanation for why.
Well, you can
It's-
think, you can, ready, here,
$200,000 in the fund.
right. Why is there not $200,000 in that fund? Where did it go? And like I said, I talked to you about the scholarships and stuff. I still haven't heard back from the schools on that. They were
That's at
supposed
4
to.
And that's at 4% for 94 years.
I know
All
that.
during the early 80s, we're getting on CDs 15%
Right.
for a period, for a few years in
Right.
the late 70s, early 80s.
That's
So
right.
That's very commensurate with 4%.
Well, you would know that better than me, the guy who went to school 30 years ago to be able to do that work. Shh, we don't tell everybody our age here. All right. All right. So we kind of have to close up things, but I wanted to make sure that we went over that with everybody so that you know exactly where we're going. We need a bylaw. We didn't get into any old business. We're still on the operating policy is where it's at under old business. Update to the application for funds. I gave you that update already, which is being reviewed by the attorney. We still have to add some information in on that. And I just want people to know that, there are DD 214 requirements for the veterans funds that need to be supported and shown. We need to see all the boxes that are checked and, what the discharge is and so on and so forth. And that's all going to be put in as part of policy where we write policy. I'd like everybody to know that we do have a vacancy. We're looking for a member. If you're interested in being a member of the Trust Fund Commission, come on down. You can, make your public appeal here, and upon a vote of us to move forward to the Select Board for a vote, and you can make your public appeal to the Select Board at that time. That's the process. The process would be reversed had we not sent a letter to the Select Board letting them know we had a vacancy. The Select Board could appoint at will. But where we sent the letter upon notice of vacancy, it goes through us. for a determination of a good fit, and then to them, which kind of alleviates the select board of having to like deal with everybody else's stuff. They say, well, what did they say? Well, they said, all right. And it's like, okay, it helps them make a better, more informed decision. So when you jump out a part, it becomes difficult. That's it. Our update on interns. We're not using any interns at the moment. It's too late in the season, so on and so forth. Maybe there's something for next year for us to use and utilize. I opted out against that because I was able to find most of the information. Interns require you to have like an entire formed, curriculum almost for the instruction for them to be able to accomplish and complete to be able to get credit. It would be unfair to bring somebody in without having that written, having it cross the board here, and then having the submission made to the schools. But it is still an option for us to work at. It does help a person in the community, whether they're a graduate student, undergraduate, you know what I mean, to be able to get some experience or more experience. The real estate investigations, as I mentioned, are ongoing. As far as reviewing and rewriting our risk management policy, we discussed that. The proposed written operating policy, that's still in flux, which we have been discussing throughout the evening. I did speak on in the last hour on rewriting trusts and the process and so forth and how to do that. And again, like I said, I've been reading some of these things to the public to give them an idea of what we're doing and why, there's a lot of talk that goes on here because there's a lot of development that the public needs to be aware of. And this is a process that is completely in flux. Okay, do we have any beneficiaries here today that would like to give a comment? I don't see any. As far as upcoming meetings and events, Happy New Year, everyone. Merry Christmas. We'll be continuing on our regular schedule in January. Richard's all done with his vacations. And so am I. I work too much. Is there any public comment? I don't see any public here. I don't see any public on Zoom. Do we have any comments from the board?
I have no comments.
I have no comment. Thank you, Richard. We don't have any comments or anything from our treasurer or finance director at this time. Again, we have an empty room. If you would like to make a motion, Richard, to adjourn the meeting on a roll call vote.
I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn meeting at 6:34 PM.
I second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Could we have a roll call vote, Richard? Your name and your vote.
Richard Howard, aye.
John Bowen, aye. The meeting is adjourned. We'd like to thank you all for joining us tonight at the Lunenburg Commissioner of Trust Funds meeting. It is 6:34.